Hello, I'm Rabbi Elton from the Great Synagogue in Sydney, and welcome to From the Rabbi's Bookshelves. This is the final part in our three-part series looking at the major theological and philosophical works of Rabbi Joseph B Soloveitchik. And the third work we'll look at is this one, The Lonely Man of Faith, published in the Journal Tradition in 1965. Now, we've seen that Rabbi Soloveitchik was a master of theory, philosophical theory and halachic theory, but this is a very different type of work. I mentioned in the first video that he was influenced by existentialism, and this work makes that very clear. Let's look at the introduction first of all. He says this: "It is not the plan of this essay to discuss the millennium-old problem of faith and reason. Theory is not my concern at the moment. I want instead to focus attention on human life situation, in which the man of faith as an individual concrete being, with his cares and hopes, concerns and needs, joys and sad moments, is entangled. Therefore, whatever I am going to say here has been derived not from philosophical dialectics, abstract speculation or detached impersonal reflections, but from actual situations and experiences with which I have been confronted." So this is Rabbi Soloveitchik telling us about his own internal religious life. It's intensely personal and very intimate as an exploration of his own religious and philosophical life. Now, the book is famous because he looks at the human predicament, the predicament of the religious person, and it's this as follows. "The nature of the dilemma can be stated in a three-word sentence: I am lonely. Let me emphasize, however, that by stating I am lonely, I do not intend to convey to you the impression that I am alone. I, thank God, do enjoy the love and friendship of many. I meet people, talk, preach, argue, reason. I am surrounded by comrades and acquaintances, and yet companionship and friendship do not alleviate the passional experience of loneliness which trails me constantly." So why is Rabbi Soloveitchik lonely? I will give you a summation of his argument. In essence, he says there are two different aspects of the human being which correspond to the two accounts of creation of man in the book of Genesis. The first account tells man to subdue the world, to make the world his dominion. That's Adam the first, Adam 1. And he is a majestic man. He is the man who builds bridges and digs mines and puts satellites into space. But there is a second account of creation, of Adam the second, which is told to cultivate the garden and to create relationship, and that is covenantal man. And these two types of humanity are in fundamental opposite to each other. Covenantal man wants to commune with his own being and with God in a deeply reflective mode, whereas majestic man wants to conquer the world and subdue it and impose his impress upon it. And each person who owns this double nature is constantly being pulled in two directions. On the one hand, he wants to retreat to his study, to meditate and reflect upon himself and upon God, and be essentially alone in communion. And on the other hand, he wants to go out and create a family and have friends and have a workplace and be thoroughly active in the world. And man can never fully rest in either of those two places. When he's being contemplative, he is pulled towards being majestic, and when he's being majestic, he's pulled back towards being contemplative. And so he's constantly moving in flux. He's never entirely at home in any one place. And that is why the human being, the religious person, is always lonely, because they're never fully settled in the place they are at the moment. They're always about to move to a new and different place. Now, this creates a rather sad picture of a life of essential loneliness, not just loneliness that might happen and can be transcended or avoided, but in fact loneliness which is essential and unavoidable to the religious human condition. But there is a hint at the end that if a person fully integrates their halachic life, their practical life, and their religious life, and imbues their practical experiences and activities with godly concepts and godly virtues, then they can finally overcome this loneliness. And that may be the redemption, this may be the transcending of the Messianic era. We will only overcome our loneliness when all things spiritual and all things material are fully integrated, which will come only when the Messiah has arrived. Thanks for joining.